Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. In this video, I want to do a reading from a book, one of my favorite books of all time. It's called The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. And interestingly enough, he's also the artist who drew this picture. This is him in real life. And this is one of the best books of all time. It's not just me saying that. This is one of the most, I think, the third most translated book of all time behind the Bible and the Tao Te Ching. So it's highly worth knowing. And it has, Kahlil Gibran was, I believe he was in the Sufi Muslim lineage, the Middle Eastern. He's one of the prides of the Middle East. And this book is absolutely beautiful because it's prose, it's a story, it's fictional, but it's very poetic, extremely poetic. It's more like poetry that's woven into a story like context, and there's some art thrown in there as well. So he's actually like a multi-talented spiritual mystic poet artist. Extremely good. So I want to read, and maybe I'll throw in a few comments there, but it's mostly just to read. And to make you guys aware of this, if you're not already, you should be. All right. And it says the 12 illustrations in this volume are reproduced from original drawings by the author. So he was a great artist, visual artist as well. Al-Mustafa, the chosen and the beloved, who was a dawn unto his own day, had waited 12 years in the city of Orphalese for his ship that was to return and bear him back to the isle of his birth. And in the 12th year, on the 7th day of Ayalul, the month of reaping, he climbed the hill without the city walls and looked seaward, and he beheld his ship coming with the mist. Now, there's a bit of an introduction here, and just bear with me. It gets to the good stuff, not too long. Then the gates of his heart were flung open, and his joy flew far over the sea. And he closed his eyes and prayed in the silence of his soul. But as he descended the hill, a sadness came upon him, and he thought in his heart, how shall I go in peace and without sorrow? Nay, not without a wound in the spirit shall I leave this city. Long were the days of pain I have spent within its walls, and long were the nights of aloneness. And who can depart from his pain and his aloneness without regret? Too many fragments of the spirit have I scattered in these streets, and too many are the children of my longing that walk naked among these hills, and I cannot withdraw from them without a burden and an ache. It is not a garment I cast off this day, but a skin that I wear with my own hands. Nor is it a thought I leave behind, but a heart made sweet with hunger and with thirst. Yet I cannot tarry longer. The sea that calls all things under her calls me, and I must embark. For to stay, though the hours burn in the night, is to freeze and crystallize and be bound in a mold. Fain would I take with me all that is here, but how shall I? A voice cannot carry the tongue, and the lips that gave it wings. Alone must it seek the ether. And alone, and without his nest, shall the eagle fly across the sun. Now, when he reached the foot of the hill, he turned again towards the sea, and he saw his ship approaching the harbor, and upon her prow the mariners, the men of his own land. And his soul cried out to them, and he said, sons of my ancient mother, you riders of the tides, how often you sailed in my dreams, and now you come in my awakening, which is my deeper dream. He calls his awakening his deeper dream. Okay. Ready I am to go, and my eagerness with sails full set awaits the wind. Only another breath will I breathe in this still air, only another loving look cast backward, and then I shall stand among you, a seafarer among seafarers, and you, vast sea, sleepless mother, who alone are peace and freedom to the rivers and the streams. Only another winding will this stream make, only another murmur in this glade. And then shall I come to you, a boundless drop to a boundless ocean. And as he walked, he saw from afar men and women leaving their fields and their vineyards and hastening towards the city gates. And he heard their voices calling his name and shouting from field to field, telling one another of the coming of his ship. And he said to himself, shall the day of parting be the day of gathering? And shall it be said that my eye was in truth my dawn? My eve was in truth my dawn? And what shall I give unto him who has left his plow in mid-furrow, or to him who has stopped the wheel of his winepress? Shall my heart become a tree heavy laden with fruit, that I may gather and give unto them? And shall my desires flow like a fountain, that I may fill their cups? So just to summarize, this is a wise man who's living in a city, and he's leaving to his hometown, and all the people of the city are coming to bid him farewell. And he's pondering what he should give them because they left their work to say goodbye. All right. Am I a harp that the hand of the mighty may touch me, or a flute that his breath may pass through me? A seeker of silences am I, and what treasure have I found in silences that I may dispense with confidence? If this is my day of harvest, in what fields have I sowed the seed, and in what unremembered seasons? If this indeed be the hour in which I lift up my lantern, it is not my flame that shall burn therein. Empty and dark shall I raise my lantern, and the guardian of the night shall fill it with oil, and he shall light it also. These things he said in words, but much in his heart remained unsaid, for he himself could not speak his deeper secrets. And when he entered into the city, all the people came to meet him, and they were crying out to him as with one voice. And the elders of the city stood forth and said, go not yet away from us. A noontide have you been in our twilight, and your youth has given us dreams to dream. No stranger are you among us, not a guest, but our son and our dearly beloved. Suffer not yet our eyes to hunger for your face. And the priests and the priestesses said unto him, let not the waves of the sea separate us now, and the years you have spent in our midst become a memory. You have walked among us a spirit, and your shadows have been a light upon our faces. Much have we loved you, but speechless was our love, and with veils has it been veiled. Yet now it cries aloud unto you, and would stand revealed before you. And ever has it been that love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation. Very beautiful sentiments, words, that he's expressing here. And I have to share with you this beautiful drawing that he himself drew. Very sensitive soul, Kahlil Gibran. Sorry. Yeah. All right. And others came also and entreated him, but he answered them not. He only bent his head, and those who stood near saw his tears falling upon his breast. And he and the people proceeded towards the great square before the temple. And there came out of the sanctuary a woman whose name was Almitra, and she was a seeress, whatever that is, seeress. And he looked upon her with exceeding tenderness, for it was she who had first saw and believed in him when he had been out a day in their city. And she hailed him, saying, prophet of God, in quest of the uttermost. So this is the prophet we're talking about. He's a prophet. Long have you searched the distances for your ship, and now your ship has come, and your needs must go. By the way, there's some sort of allegory between, I was thinking about this, between somebody who's considered a prophet and a ship sailing off to their native homeland. It was almost akin to something like enlightenment, right? Nirvana, the final destination of a wise man. That would be enlightenment. So something like that. All right. Deep is your longing for the land of your memories and the dwelling place of your greater desires. And our love would not bind you, nor our needs hold you. Yet this we ask ere you leave us, that you speak to us and give us of your truth. They're asking before he leaves, please leave us with truth that we can remember you by. because he is a prophet. So leave them with the truth, which that's what prophets do. They tell the truth. Supposed to. And we will give it unto our children, and they unto their children, and it shall not perish. In your aloneness you have watched with our days, and in your wakefulness you have listened to the weeping and the laughter of our sleep. Now therefore dispose to us to ourselves, and tell us all that has been shown you of that which is between birth and death. And he answered, people of Orphales, of what can I speak, save of that which is even now moving within your souls? Then said Almitra, speak to us of love. And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, when love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste the garden. No, so isn't it beautiful, just the way you're talking about love? It's not like overly sentimental. It's not mushy. He's talking about the whole, the underbelly of love that we often don't want to recognize. It's not just flowers and kisses and roses and rainbows and all that. All right. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Excuse me. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caress your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. See, there's none of this sort of like, well, why does God make us suffer, sentimental stuff that people, if there's a God, like, why do good people die and stuff like that? I mean, if you understand, you understand. All of life is polarized between things that we love and make us happy and things that cause us pain. But those things that cause us pain help us grow. Without that, we wouldn't grow. All right. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you free from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant, and then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, remember, this is what even Christ said, because it's all one truth, that you seek the fruit but not the tree, or you seek the tree but not the fruit, or the roots. Yeah, that's it. Something like that. But if you're in your fear, you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, only the good juicy stuff, the tree and not the fruit and not the tree, right? Then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor. Love is not for you. If you're not willing to take all of it, love is not for you. Into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. So let me read that again. But if in your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor. Love's not for you. Into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. See, if you're not willing to take the whole of love, then love's not for you, and you're not going to laugh fully, and you're not going to cry fully. You're going to be half dead. Here's another beautiful imagery that he drew. Very, very nice. Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed. For love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Just quick, God is in my heart. Like, I think a lot of people really want to, you know, sort of minimalize God and like stuff in their pocket. Be like, oh, have you found Jesus Christ, or have you found God, or have you found, it's sort of like that little thing. Like, this God is like God, however you want to call him. Not picking on Christianity; it's just very easy to pick on. If you want to minimalize it into like some separate thing, that's not. I've heard like on Facebook and other social, all the things that are not God, and they have a whole list. That's not God. That's not God. That's not God. Astrology is usually among them. Astrology is not God. This is not God. That's not God. Well, if all these things are not God, then God must be very limited, very small, and very, kept in a box, and a box so small that you can put him in your pocket. Or in this case, he's talking about God is in my heart. We're not in God. God's not in our heart. We are in the heart of God, right? Because God is everything. And if you think God's not everything, well, then we don't have the same, or we have this, we call it the same word, obviously, but the understanding is very different. God is not this limited thing that where you have, this is God, this is not God, right? That's ridiculous. When you love, you should not say God is in my heart, but rather I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. To melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness. To be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. To bleed willingly and joyfully. How many people bleed willingly and joyfully? Not easy. To nest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, and that to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. Beautiful stuff, then. I'm not going to read the whole book because it'll just take too long, but I'm going to do a few more of these, and then maybe I'll revisit it in another video. Then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" And the book continues like this, and what if this and what if that? And he talked about different subjects and different topics. Beautifully each time, masterfully. And what of marriage, master? And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cups, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone." He's talking about not being codependent, really, right? Two people can come together, both independent, and support each other, but still, be a couple, but not be codependent upon each other. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. Don't be possessive. For only the hand of life can contain your hearts, and stand together, yet not too near together. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. Another beautiful image. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children, They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. Now that is a famous line right there. Beautiful. And I know I've heard it. I know many people have heard it many times. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. Quite a drastic change from, Democrats and communists saying that your children are your children. They belong to the state. No, that's a tangent, but anyway. They're the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. We do not own our children. It is true. They are their own people. And I know this from my own experience. Like, my parents definitely did not own me or my mind. I'm far too independent. And I kind of, somewhere along the ways, I realized my sort of huge resistance to following other people, including my parents. I'm like allergic to following other people. And if I get caught up in that, I start hating myself. But anyway, our children are definitely not our own. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. It's true. For they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. Really, this is a problem that most parents have with their children. I would say a lot of, they're really people, we really try and control our children. We want our children to be like us, and they're not. I've struggled with this, but I've come to embrace it more and more as my son has grown and I've matured as a parent. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So your children, our children, are the arrows, and we are the bow, and God is the archer. Okay, and that's destroyed. So don't be too heavy-handed with your children. Allow them to be who they are. I was bullied as a child by my parents and grandparents, and I definitely resented it. But it's probably my karma, and I learned a lot, and I learned how to, even though there's a tendency to the sins of the father are passed from generation to generation. Consciously, I know I have to let my son follow his own path and not bully him. It's very important to allow our children the freedom to be who they are, rather than try and make them something that we want them to be. Especially when the child is potentially more involved than the parent. We don't know, that can happen, and that probably does happen a lot. And so this child who at one time on one hand is subject to their parents and relies on their parents to take care of them, on the other might have greater wisdom and foresight and knowledge and intelligence. And for the parents to try and force their ignorance upon the child, that's a torture. That's a traumatic torture that can happen, and it probably often does. So we always have to be careful of that if we have children, or if we're in that position with children, to not force our ignorance upon the children, because it may just in pure objectivity, that's a very likely possibility. Stop taking yourself so personally. We all have our blind spots. We all have our ignorance. It's completely possible for me, right? For anyone else I know, it is completely possible for my parents. I know, my parents, my grandparents, they definitely were pushing some of their ignorance upon me. Looking back, I can see that, so it happens. Nobody's above it. So we all have to really just kind of be light with how we go upon, impressing on our children. Of course, it's our job to keep them from danger, but Anyway, I think you understand what I'm trying to get at. There's a fine line, and it calls for good judgment, to keep them safe, but not bully them. All right. Then said a rich man, speak to us of giving. And he answered, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give, which is what I'm trying to do here. Like, one of the things about my videos is that, like, I want to make it interesting for me, but I also want to give something of value. And that's why I'm reading this book. I think everyone should know about it. And it's not like I'm have I think I have the greatest commentary or anything. I don't know. I don't want to put myself down either, but it's more just to share interesting things and to help, if somebody's not aware of this book, be aware of it. It's an amazing, amazing book. Go and get it. All right. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions, but things you keep and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow. So possessions, relating back to astrology, this would be second house stuff, Taurian stuff. And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overprudent dog, bearing bones in the trackless sand, as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? Let me read that again. And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overprudent dog, burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows pilgrims to the holy city? So the overprudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand is like holding on to your possessions as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city, when compared to pilgrims and holy city, like spirituality versus materialism. It's essentially what he's trying to express there. And what is fear of need but need itself? It is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable. It is not, I'm going to read it again. It is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable. He's like, if you already have stuff, but you dread not having stuff, then that's the that feeling itself is unquenchable. That's like an unquenchable thirst, right? Fearing loss when you have things, it's like you've already lost what you have. There are those who give little of the much which they have. There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. So like philanthropists who, give what seem to be large sums of money, but for them it's like nothing. It's not giving anything. It's not doing it. They're not giving anything, but they get to pat themselves on the back, and other people get to be like, oh, they're so generous. They gave, an unnoticeable amount of money, which is large in our eyes, but nothing for them. Who cares? And there are those who have little and give it all. There are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. Sorry, these are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. So he's saying those who have little and give it all, these are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. They give even though they have nothing, but their spiritual richness is full. They're full of spiritual richness. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. And there are those who give and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They give as in yonder valley the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. Through the hands of such as these, God speaks, and from behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth. Let me read that again. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. So there's some people who love giving, and that joy that they get from giving is their reward. And there are some who give, and they don't want to give, and that pain is their baptism. right? They're learning, they're growing, they're evolving through that pain of giving. And there are those who give and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They're not trying to be virtuous. They're not trying to be good. They're not trying to be holy. They're not trying to gain recognition. They're not trying to be like, hey, look at me. I'm such a spiritual, good person. I'm giving. Look how good I am. They give as in yonder valley, the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. The myrtle is a flower. It breathes its fragrance into space. It's not doing it for any sort of recognition. It's doing it because it's who it is, what it is. That's its nature. Through the hands of such as these, God speaks, and from behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth. He's talking about there's a kind of person whose nature it is to give. And that's just their nature. They're not trying to achieve anything. It's just their nature. And God speaks through them, and from behind their eyes, he smiles upon their earth. So these are people who are very connected to God, because it is God's nature to give. Because what is this whole universe but God's creation, right? God is life affirming. God is life itself. Right now I hear the birds chirping. It's a sign of God's benevolence. God is nothing but life affirming, right? It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked through understanding. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And to the open-handed, the one who's giving, the search for one who shall receive. So to somebody who wants to give, if they find somebody who wants to receive, that is a joy greater than giving. Okay, so the search is the joy greater than giving. So searching for somebody who wants to give, the search for the one who shall receive is a joy greater than giving. And there is aught you would withhold. And is there aught you would withhold? All you have shall someday be given. Therefore, give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. I mean, this is deeply inspiring and moving stuff. And the reason it's so valuable to read this is because I don't know about you, but it moves me. It inspires me. It motivates that part of me which resonates with this. My higher self, my soul. It's speaking to my soul and activating my soul. And that's why it's good to keep. See, this is the company that we keep. When we read the book of somebody like a master like Kahlil Gibran, he's a master, then this is the company that we keep, right? If you keep company with thieves and criminals and drug addicts, you're likely to become a thief and a criminal and drug addict. But if you want to ascend your consciousness and your soul level, keep good company. This is good company. This is your company. If you find yourself without much company or in needing of better company, then this is your company. Things like this and other books. All you have shall someday be given. Therefore, give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. You often say, I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in your orchard say not so, nor the flocks in your pasture. They give that they may live, for to withhold is to perish. And we often see this, and I do this myself. I see somebody on the streets, homeless person, somebody asking for money, and in my head, I'm like, do they deserve money? Maybe they don't deserve money. Maybe they're just going to spend it on drugs or alcohol. They don't look too well. They don't look too healthy. But he's saying that's not really our job. It's not really our job to judge who is deserving and who's not. The trees in the orchard say not so. nor the flocks in your pasture. They give that they may live, for to withhold is to perish. This is why it's important to read books like this, because they're going to check you. They're going to check your own judgment. They're going to check your own understanding and actions, and get you to question yourself. And that's extremely important. We don't grow. Well, we can grow without it, but I mean, this is the one helpful tool to help us grow. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy of all else from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. God has given all of us life, right? The sun shines on all of us. The trees ripen for the tree fruits ripen for all of us. It's not, life itself is not judging who is and who's not deserving. I mean, if there's any deserving of anything, it's the karma that we receive, but it's not our job to dish out karma, to dish out retribution, to dish out justice, right? And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. You know, if the question is whether you're going to give 25 cents to the homeless person on the corner and you're like, do they deserve it or not? I don't think that's the right question, because God has decided that to bestow upon this person a much, much greater giving than your measly quarter, right? God has said this person is deserving. You don't need to decide anymore, right? And I'm talking to myself really here, you know, while I'm talking to you. It's one of the things about having seventh house planets. You have to include other people in your talk, especially Mercury, right? I have to talk to other people. That's how I talk. That's why one of the reasons I make these videos. I'm talking to myself, essentially. God has already decided they are deserving. That's it. We don't need any further decision. We don't need to deliberate. Are they deserving of our, quarter, 50 cents, dollar, whatever? God has already decided to give them a gift far beyond anything we could give from our pockets, right? Or if we have some food or whatever, we're going to give to them. Or whoever, right? God has already decided they are worthy. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. Just by mere fact of them being there, they deserve it. And what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? That's an interesting line. I'm not sure what to say about it. And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? And he's saying, like, who are you to judge others? Because that men should prove themselves, that they should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, right? That they should tell their story to you to decide whether they are deserving. That you should see their worth naked and their pride unabashed for you to judge them, right? And who are you that you should be the judge of another? That you should decide whether they're deserving or not, right? You're so great. Get a hold of yourself, bucko. Get off your high horse. God already decided. You don't get to decide. I'm speaking to myself. See first that you yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. He's saying not to judge. And the first thing that we should be is that are we deserving to be a giver? Not are they deserving to receive our measly, measly whatever quarters or whatever we have in our pockets that we're deliberating giving to them. See first that you yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. That's what we have to see to. For in truth, it is life that gives unto life, while you who deem yourself a giver are but a witness. No, we're not giving anything. We've been gifted whatever we have in our pocket, whatever quarters or dollars or dimes or pennies or food items that we have to give was given to us in the first place. And it is by life that gave it to us. So it's not ours, we take our, does this person deserve my little petty, insignificant, he's saying like bullshit, like that's so arrogant. Like, you have to see to yourself that you're fit to be a giver first, judge not the other, and that the things that you're thinking about giving were given to you and they're not really yours anyway. And you receivers, and you are all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather, rise together with the giver on his gift as on wings. For to be overmindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for father. He's saying receive without feeling indebted, because life is nothing but giving and receiving, and all of life, and there's a certain arrogance to people who on the other end of the spectrum feel that they are unworthy to receive. And we all have this. I have this. I know this about myself. It's one of the things that I've come across recently in my own investigation, my self-inquiry, is that, yeah, definitely part of me does not feel worthy to receive. And that's one of the main stumbling blocks as far as like me making more money in life and me rising up in my career, is that I don't feel worthy, right? And that will subtly undermine all my efforts, no matter what my conscious mind is saying. If my subconscious is saying, you're not ready, you're not worthy, the sabotage will come in. And anything, like you see, like people, I made $1 million this year by doing blah, 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 and it's so easy. Well, it's only easy if you don't have the conditioning in your mind that says, I cannot receive. I'm not worthy of receiving. Anyone who has that will not get the easy money, because they will destroy through their subconscious, through the 12th house, right? And so I'm working on that. So that's what he's talking about. And you receivers, and you're all receivers. Assume no weight of gratitude. Weight of gratitude. He's not saying don't be grateful. He's saying assume no weight of gratitude. Be light about it. Like we are all, and the same goes for like nourishment. When people nourish themselves, this is one of the big things in the vegan community. Vegans do not feel worthy of receiving nourishment. It's subconscious. They're not going to admit it. And there could be other kind of reasons. I don't mean to rag on them. I know I've ragged a lot on vegans, but I'm just saying, like, there's a certain, and this may not be true for all vegans, but there's a certain grouping of vegans that will not eat animal food because subconsciously they're saying, I'm not worthy of receiving that level of nourishment. Because animal food is much more nourishing than, as far as nourishment goes, right? As far as nourishment is concerned, it's much more nourishing than vegetable food. In a different way, like as far as like bulk nourishment. I mean, plant food, believe me, I'm a big plant eater. I eat tons of plants, and they've got tons of benefits. But I'm just saying, like, as far as like bulk nourishment, you're gonna get much more from animal food. So the same thing, people are able to accept gifts and receive nourishment. And here's another drawing. All right. Then an old man, a keeper of an inn, said, speak to us of eating and drinking. And he said, would that you could live on the fragrance of the earth, and like an air plant be sustained by the light. But since you must kill to eat, and rob the newly born of its mother's milk to quench your thirst, let it then be an act of worship. And let your board stand an altar on which the pure and the innocent of forest and plain are sacrificed for that which is purer and still more innocent in man. I'm going to read that again. But since you must kill to eat, and rob the newly born of its mother's milk to quench your thirst, let it then be an act of worship. And he's not saying don't eat meat or animal food. He's saying let it be an act of worship, right? Have respect, reverence, and let it be, full of spirit. And let your board stand an altar on which the pure and the innocent of forest and plain are sacrificed for that which is pure and still more innocent in man. I said, let it feed that which is pure and still more innocent in man. Our higher essence, our spirit or soul, right, is what is pure and still more innocent in man. When you kill a beast, say to him in your heart, by the same power that slays you, I too am slain. I too shall be consumed. For the law that delivered you into my hand shall deliver me into a mightier hand. Your blood and my blood is not but the sap that feeds the tree of heaven. I mean, he's just giving ultimate respect and reverence to the animals that feed our blood and body. He's not saying don't eat meat, don't eat animal food. He's saying have great respect, have great reverence for it. And I think that's perfectly good advice, right? And when you crush an apple with your teeth, say to it in your heart, your seeds shall live in my body, and the buds of your tomorrow shall blossom in my heart, and your fragrance shall be my bread, and together we shall rejoice through all the seasons. And in the autumn, when you gather the grapes of your vineyards for the winepress, say in your heart, I too am a vineyard, and my fruit shall be gathered from the winepress. And like new wine, I shall be kept in eternal vessels. And in winter, when you draw the wine, let there be in your heart a song for each cup, and let there be in the song a remembrance for the autumn days, and for the vineyard, and for the winepress. And he's saying whether you eat vegetable or animal or drink whatever, drinking the same vegetable, animal, have respect, have reverence. And he's not saying this only for the animals, he's saying it for the vegetables too. And this is important because often you kind of get this vibe, though not outright said, among people who won't eat animal food, that the vegetables don't matter. It's like such a hands-off approach to anything animal food based, but it's like vegetables, fuck them. Who cares? Just eat all the vegetables in the world. Waste them all. Who cares? Anyway, no respect, no reverence there. Then a plowman said, speak to us of work. And he answered, saying, you work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out in life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. It's saying we have to work, necessary to work. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, the cycles, and to step out of life's process that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. When you work, you are a flute through whose heart the whispering of the hours turns to music. Which of you would be a reed, dumb and silent, when all else sings together in unison? So this is interesting. I mean, people often complain about work, and I have too, and certainly there can be reform in work, but work itself is not bad. Think about the farmers who, have to farm in order for there to be food. If work is so bad, who's going to grow our food? If work is so bad, who's going to build our houses? If work is so bad, who's going to make our clothes? If work is so bad, who's going to cook our food? Right? These things all need to be done. Whether you want to call it work or not, you want to have monetary exchange for it or not, that's all details. but work itself is part of life. It's necessary. We all have to work in order to live. Unless we want to live like wild men in the jungle, but I don't see too many people rushing to, join their primate cousins in the trees, right? I mean, if that's your attitude, then go for it. But so far, I really don't see any good alternatives. I mean, unless we have free energy, which I think they have free energy and they're hiding it from us, but that's another story. Always you have been told that work is a curse and a labor, a misfortune. This guy's a sage. He's a prophet. He's a saint. He's an enlightened being. He's talking about the value of work. Okay, so, these lefties who go around, bashing work. Well, I don't know. I don't want to bring it into that because maybe, I don't know. They probably all say differently. Anyway. But I say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. Let me read that again. Always you have been told that work is a curse and a labor, a misfortune. A curse and labor and misfortune. But I would say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. But if you in your pain call birth an affliction, and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow, then I answer that not, but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. I'm going to read that again. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. But if you in your pain call birth an affliction, and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow, then I answer that not but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. You have been told also that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo what was said by the weary. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge. And all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge. And all knowledge is vain, save when there is work. And all work is empty, save when there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. I'm going to read that again because there's a lot woven in there. You have been told also that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo that what was said by the weary. So the weary echo the weary, the tired echo the tired. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge. Life is dark, except when there is urge. What is urge? Need. I think urge is need. And all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge. So knowledge gives us sight to our urge, to our need. And all knowledge is vain, save when there is work. Knowledge is useful unless there is work. And all work is empty, save when there is love. So all work is empty except when there's love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. So it's a bit esoteric, but he's saying work with love, for that gives meaning to knowledge and sight to urge or need. So there's probably a lot that could be unpacked there that I would have to think about for a while longer. But he continues. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. What is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. So it is to work as if your beloved were going to wear the product of your labor, right? Something like that. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house, right? You're building a house with the love that you would as if you were building it for your beloved. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and to reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat that fruit. Right? To do your work as if you're doing it for your beloved. It is to charge all things you fashion with the breath of your own spirit, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. Often have I heard you say, as if speaking in sleep, he who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. But I say not in sleep, but not in overwakefulness of noontide, that the wind speaks not more sweetly to the giant oaks than to the least of all the blades of grass. And he alone is great, who turns the voice of the wind into a song made sweeter by his own loving. I'm going to read that again, sorry. Often I've heard you say, as if speaking in sleep, he who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone. He who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on the cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. And he's saying that if we can capture something of our own essence and imbue it into our work, then this is greater than something that is just mere craftsmanship. He's talking about the difference between, I'm summarizing this as the difference between art and craft and the mystery of art, why things are art, right? It's a huge mystery, what makes art. Nobody can define it. It cannot be done, right? No computer, no AI, no scientist. You can put a pithy definition, but you cannot use that definition to then go ahead and create art. It's a mystery. It's something that is lost, that you either get it or you don't get it. You know, whatever definition you say, this is art, you cannot use that definition and be like, okay, I got the recipe for art. Now I'm going to go make art. You're not going to make art that way. But those who make art stumble upon it, right? Because he who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. How do you find the shape of your own soul in the stone of marble? And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. Anyone can make sandals for our feet. How do you seize a rainbow and lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man? I mean, he's speaking poetically about something which is capturing an essence, and this typically we call art. But I say not in sleep, but in the overwakefulness of noontide, that the wind speaks not more sweetly to the giant oaks than to the least of all the blades of grass. And he alone is great, who turns the voice of the wind into a song made sweeter by his own loving. So again, he's talking about art because a song with love and emotion, obviously this is art. This is, you know, the beauty of a well-crafted song. It's not just, you know, a craft. It's not just putting notes on, you know, on a record. He alone is great, who turns the voice of the wind into a song made sweeter by his own loving. Work is love made visible. So work, he's saying, he's bringing in artistry into the idea of work, saying that work, true work, is to move towards artistry, to make things, to capture the soul in the in your product, which is art. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. Wow, that's a bold statement. He's saying if you can't work with joy, go in front of the temple and be a beggar, right? And take alms of those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half of man's hunger. And if you grudge the crushing of the grapes, your grudge distills the poison in the wine. And just commentary, I make these videos not because I receive any rewards. I mean, basically, I operate at a loss because I don't receive any monetary gain. I do gain some astrology readings from them, but from this, I'm probably not going to get any. The reason I do it is because it fulfills a part of me, and so I think it's worth doing because of that. And hopefully that will translate into anyone who finds this valuable. And if you sing though as angels and love not the singing, you muffle man's ears to the voice of the day and the voices of the night. Beautiful stuff. I'm going to read one more, and then we'll be done for this section. Maybe I'll continue it another time. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." You know this one's going to be a good one. And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked." Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. So how do you get, just from that line alone, how do you get the joy? Unmask your sorrow. How do you unmask your sorrow? Dive into it. Shadow work, right? Subconscious stuff. All the good things. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. It's such an important lesson because people, I don't know how many times you come across people who, I don't know where they get, I mean, society, obviously, but they're like, "Oh, I can't cry. That means I'm weak. It means I'm a pussy." You know, and I'm just like, I get where that's coming from, but it's so obviously ridiculous. It's such a poisonous mind frame because all you're doing, you're not all that pain's not going away. You're just keeping it with you. You're dragging it around, right? You know, I'm gonna harden my heart. I'm gonna swallow my tears. That song. Why? Why would you just? So for a moment of vulnerability, you could like, you know, you can't endure that, but like crying alone, or with a trusted friend or somebody, just to unburden yourself of that, right? Why do you think babies are so healthy? Because they don't have this stupid idea that crying is somehow makes you weak. You know, if you're concerned about, just go alone and don't let anyone ruin it for you. Because I know people can ruin it. Like if you cry in front of the wrong people, they're gonna ruin it. They're gonna take it up. They're gonna, you know, be jerks about it, laugh, make fun of you, whatever. So just do it alone. Or if you have somebody you can trust. There's nothing wrong with tears. They're completely natural. We don't get to decide how this human being, this human composite, works and operates. Tears are a part of it. That's just a function of being human. Stop making it about being like tough or, you know, whatever. If you have to cry, you cry. That's just a normal function. It's about as stupid as being like, "I'm not gonna go pee or poo because that's gross and that's, you know, not what I do. I don't do that because I'm above that. I'm bigger than that." You don't get to decide. That's a bodily function. And crying is the same. It's an emotional function. It's part of being healthy and human. All right. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. It's the roots and the branches. In order to have high branches, you need deep roots. In order to be happy, you need to experience sadness. There is no such thing like there's this modern myth. I just want to be happy. I don't know how many times you hear people say, I just want to be happy. Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's such a modest, humble, thing. Like all I want out of life is just to be happy. I mean, I get it. Like, so I can't be too hard on anyone who says that, but it's like stupid. It's like, oh, you think you're the only one who wants to be happy? That's literally the nature of every living thing in the whole goddamn universe. But you think you're humble because that's all you want. You just want to be happy. Like that's all you could. That's the most anyone could ever ask for is to be happy. Like, but there's no happiness without sadness. But what they're saying is like, I just want to be happy without being sad. It's highly ignorant. Like you're an idiot. Like just smack. You're dumb. You're stupid. You're an idiot. All right. I mean, obviously my expression is harsh, but if somebody says I just want to be happy, well, it's not a very evolved thing to say. They're really on the low level of understanding when it comes to these things. We all want to be happy, you dumb, stupid. Yeah. Okay. Naive. You're naive. You're young. You're youthful. If you say something like that. We gotta forgive people. And believe me, I have a very harsh expression, but I'm very forgiving. So even though I say like you're a dumb, stupid idiot, like I'll say that about myself. It's just how I like to express. I like to exaggerate. I'm a Gemini, and I'm also very harsh in Virgo moon, Scorpio sun. Anyways, it's trying to, people take me too seriously. They think my sharp expression. Well, anyway, I don't know. Maybe I just have to learn to express myself better. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that has burned into the potter's oven? Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? So the same cup that's holding your wine is the cup that was burned in the potter's oven. So first it was burned. The cup went through fire. It was burned, right? Went through the fire. And then it gets to hold the wine. So the fire is akin to the sorrow and the pain. And the wine is the joy and the happiness. And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? Again, same allegory. When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. And so this is what I was talking about before, that pain and suffering is what allows us to evolve and to grow. And, we have this naive sentiment that why would God allow good people to suffer? As if we should all only just be happy and that's it. And that, life is just about, 2.5 children, 2 cars in your garage, white picket fence, just, living to old age without having any major obstacles or diseases and just having, like your family and then just nothing ever, you just have a boring life where you never face any difficulty, nobody ever suffers. That's not what life is. That's a fantasy. That's an illusion. That's not why we're here. We did not incarnate to just have this uneventful, boring life where we avoid all fear and all, hardship and all pain and things like that. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. It's just two halves of the same coin. When one thing makes us happy, it has potential to make us sad. No way around that. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. This is the truth. This is a master speaking. And this is why I'm reading this kind of stuff, because we hold untruths as truths, and that's why we think life is so unfair and unbalanced. We need to just look better. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come. And when one sits alone with you at your board, remember, yet the other is asleep on your bed, upon your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you're empty are you at standstill and balance. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. Let me read that again, because he writes in a way that needs clarification, I guess. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. The scales, the Libra scales. Only when you're empty are you at standstill and balance. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. That's a funny way of writing. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, so who's the treasure keeper? I think that's God in this reference. Lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver. So his gold and his silver. Our joy is his gold and his silver. Our happiness is his gold and his silver. Needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. So he's saying that the balance between joy and sorrow must always be equal to his gold and his silver. So you can chew on that for a while. I'm going to read the rest at another video. Put a bookmark in there. Maybe tomorrow, maybe another day. But anyway, great book. I highly suggest everyone read it. And by the way, I'm almost halfway done. Just that, so it's a pretty short book, but highly worth reading, as well as many other books, which maybe I'll get to at some point, just for why not. And I will see you guys again soon. All right, thanks, Bert.